Question 4 on the ballot in Massachusetts this November will decide whether undocumented immigrants are permitted to obtain driver's licenses in the state. The state legislature has already passed a law that would allow the expanded access starting in July of next year. They overrode a veto from Governor Baker to do it. But now the voters get to weigh in. According to the Secretary of State's website, quote, a yes vote would keep in place the law, which would allow Massachusetts residents who cannot provide proof of lawful presence in the U.S. to obtain a driver's license or permit if they meet the other requirements for doing so. A no vote would repeal this law. On the yes side of the issue, I'm joined by State Senator Brendan Creighton from the group Safer Roads, Massachusetts. Senator, it's good to see you.
Thanks so much for having us.
And on the no side, Jay McMahon, who's representing the group Fair and Secure Massachusetts, is also the Republican nominee for State Attorney General. Jay, it's good to see you. Thanks so much for being here.
Good to be here, Jay.
Since your side are the movers, they're the ones who want to repeal, why should this law be repealed?
Well, Jim, the people on our side want to repeal it for a number of reasons.
Like what?
Well, let's talk about constitutionality first. It deals with foreign nationals here in the country illegally. We all know that. We all admit it. That's what the law is targeting. And yet the Constitution of the United States gives dealing with foreign governments and foreign nationals exclusive prerogative to the president.
Doesn't have anything to do with their immigration status, though.
But it absolutely does when you're talking about people that are here undocumented. It has everything to do with that. And the Registry of Motor Vehicles, who are going to be in charge of this, has no authority under any federal constitution or federal law to grant legitimacy to people who are otherwise in the country illegally.
Senator, you want to respond to those?
Yeah, I mean, I'm here to debate the law that's been passed and that makes our roads safer by requiring that everybody follow the same set of rules. This isn't an immigration issue. This has nothing to do with immigration. It's about making our roads safer, making sure that everybody has to pass a road test, a vision test, get insurance, and to, get a license in the Commonwealth.
Yeah, Jay, I'm sure you know that 16 or 17 states already have these laws. Of the problems that you and your allies are predicting, can you describe to me where they've arisen anywhere in those 16 or 17 states? Has there been a problem anywhere?
Absolutely.
What are they?
I will explain it. There's 16 states and then the District of Columbia. So that gives you the 17. And every single state, fatalities within 2 years, the ones who have kept records, in every single state, fatalities have gone up between 20 and 30%. I've got a list of each state by state, but that's the range, 20 to 30%.
Hit and run numbers have gone down in a number of those states.
If the hit and runs have gone down, that's good. But the fatalities, with the ones where people don't walk away from the accident, those have gone up.
Senator, is that true?
I mean, I'd say across the country, unfortunately, we've seen some really serious accidents over the past few years during the pandemic, a lot more fatal accidents. That's not exclusive to states that have adopted similar legislation. So I'd love to see the stats there, but it has been across the country. It's a tragedy. But in these states, as you mentioned, we've seen less hit and runs, 80% less in New Mexico, 60% less in Utah. I mean, that's a serious decrease in accidents.
Because the person who gets involved in an accident who's undocumented is not worried about running away from the cops, obviously.
Absolutely. And they have insurance and they'll stick around. And
one of the other arguments Jay's side has made that I've read and heard is this becomes a magnet, I think is the term they use, for undocumented people. Is that a concern for you? Is it true?
Again, it's 16 other states, 17 if you count Rhode Island that recently passed, but 16 that have implemented, and D.C. And there are many states that are much closer to the border. There are red and blue states. Certainly this has not led to, there's no evidence, I guess, to point to being a magnet. If people want to come to Massachusetts, it's because there's great opportunities here for education, for workforce, for raising a family, but it has nothing to do with a bill that we've just passed into law.
Jay, one of the most powerful supporters, I think even people on the senator's side would agree, is Maureen Maloney, who's obviously his son, Matthew Denise, was killed by an undocumented driver who was drunk. So I totally understand her commitment to this issue. What I don't understand is how the law, had it been effective, how would it have changed an outcome here? The absence of the law didn't cause that horror to happen. So why is that even relevant to this discussion?
In other words, you're saying it would have happened anyway.
I don't.
It's basically what you're saying.
No, I'm saying I don't know if it would have happened anyway. I just know that the absence of law didn't prevent it from happening. So why is that horrible tragedy relevant to this ballot question?
Well, I think I tend to agree that the death, however it occurred, would have occurred in any event. But what her issue was, and what the senator was saying about somehow these people are going to have insurance, There's nothing in the law that requires someone with a license to have insurance. You need insurance to register a vehicle, but there's nothing that mandates them having insurance to get a license.
Why do you think, by the way, that the police chiefs organization supports this thing if it's such a horrible idea?
So from what I see, the chiefs have not come out and said they endorse this law. What they said is they're looking for some kind of identification for these people, and that's what they're supporting.
Wait, is that so?
That's not so. I mean, we met with the chiefs. They helped us throughout this process, the major city chiefs. In fact, they helped us, make compromise in the bill to make it, suit their needs, to make sure that their officers, as well as the general public, are as safe as possible. They worked with us on the documents that are required. So you do need documents to earn this license. So I think law enforcement, from the sheriffs to the DAs to the chiefs of police, I'm going to stand with them, and I believe our constituents will as well. And on the issue of public safety.
It's not the topic tonight. You want to be the Attorney General of the Commonwealth.
That's right.
Don't you think that police chiefs and sheriffs and DAs, if they're taking a lead on this like they're taking on the senator's side, are ones whose voices should be listened to?
Well, I don't think that. Well, see, that's why I disagree with the premise of the question that they are endorsing this.
Well, I've actually read it, but
they have endorsed it.
No, I haven't.
The law.
What they have endorsed is a concept of identification. But let's talk about it. What is the identification that this license is going to give them? Well, they have to have certain documentation, which Charlie Baker vetoed this bill, and the reason he vetoed it is he says the Registry of Motor Vehicles does not have the expertise, or indeed I would say doesn't have the competence to cover all the things it needs to do. In other words, the three different types of documentations they need from some foreign government to prove who they are doesn't work.
So speaking of the governor, on our radio show, Marjorie Egan and I have talked to the governor about this law and now the ballot question for months and months. He's concerned. He's a pretty smart character, I think even his critics would agree. Says he's really worried about the voting issue, that this automatic voter thing that comes with registration, despite what proponents of the law, like you say, is going to be a problem. The people are going to end up getting registered and voting who should not be. How do you respond to him?
So I respect the governor. He's a constituent of mine, but on this issue we disagree. It's just simply not true. It's been debunked over and over again. The Secretary of State has said as much. When you automatically register to vote, that system is not, it's a misnomer. You're not automatically registered. You have to have proven that you are a citizen. So we already have DACA recipients, TPS recipients, green card holders, work in college school visa program. They can apply for a license to earn it, yet they're not able to vote because they're not citizens. So we already have this system in place that works. How would this be any different?
I didn't know that till a couple of days ago. I wish I had known that when we were talking to the governor, because I find that pretty compelling. If they're able to handle green card holders, let me add to your list, 16 and 17-year-olds who can't vote either, but they can drive. I know from my family, and I'm guessing others do too. If they can handle those, why can't they handle this?
Oh, there's a ton of things you're asking. Why can't the Registry of Motor Vehicles handle something? I mean, we have heard that the history of the Registry of Motor Vehicles being a functioning, explicit office when they can't even suspend licenses from people when they're supposed to. In other words,
how many green card holders or 16-year-olds who got a license from the registry have voted illegally?
I can't tell you.
Do you know of any?
I don't know of any.
Don't you think
personally.
we would know if there were any?
I would hope that we would, but therein is the problem, because they automatically register people to vote. And I'll tell you what, a lot of people, when they've gone in to reinstate their licenses, wind up being, again, on the voter rolls.
Do they automatically register to vote?
They do not. There's a system in place, again, or we would have all these folks registered to vote. It doesn't make sense. And also, just to be clear, you do not need a driver's license to register to vote in Massachusetts. That should end the argument right there. It's a misnomer. This is about safer roads.
It's the other way around,
safer roads, endorsed by law enforcement. I drive my kids to school every day, 7 and 3. I want everyone else on that road to have passed a driver's test and to have done it the right way.
Put aside your position.
Let me speak to that.
Of course,
because when you apply for a license from Massachusetts, you automatically get enrolled. There's a little box.
False.
Oh, wait a minute. Hold on, Senator. Let me finish. There's a box there. You got to check to opt out.
So then, can we go back to my question then? If the senator says you're wrong, but if you were right, for argument's sake, how many green card holders who are not entitled to vote have voted? How many 16-year-olds who are not entitled to vote have voted?
Well, I'll
you
tell
can't
what,
name any.
because I don't have that information.
There's a system that checks whether or not they are citizens after that little box you talk about. So they're already going through this. Mass Health does the same thing. No one has refuted that. I mean, this is a long process. We're going on close to 20 years. Nobody has refuted that, but it's a very convenient thing for the opposition to say to, again, further divide us at the ballot box, which is unfortunate.
The law specifically says the registry cannot ask them what country they're from.
This has nothing to do with that. The system that checks afterwards has nothing to do with that. It's just,
you know, put aside your position representing the committee. You're driving down the road. You're hit by someone driving another car, and they're an undocumented person. Would you prefer they have a license and have gone through testing, or you're just driving on the road, no accident? The person next to you is an undocumented person. Would you prefer they went through testing, vision test, road test, etc., or just drive? Because most people who drive, who are undocumented, drive to live, to take their kid to a doctor, as you know, to go to work or that sort of thing. Which would you prefer, as a human, not as a representative?
Jim, if they bang into me, I prefer they have $1 million insurance policy.
Okay, they don't bang into you. How about driving next to you? Would you prefer they've gone through testing, or are you okay with they're not going to stop driving, Jay?
Jim, I prefer that they enter this country through a legitimate point of entry, that they're vetted by the federal government like the law says. Then when they get here, if they're here as residents, they're entitled to a license. But if their first thing coming into this country is an illegal entry, I'm suspicious of everything that they may want to do. Jim, the law is put in place for a reason. People in law enforcement have to enforce the law. It's to protect all of us. It's called public safety.
This is the law. This is the law that you're trying to. I'm sorry.
No,
go ahead.
you're the.
No, go ahead.
No, I apologize. I mean, we're not here again. The federal immigration system is broken. It's been broken throughout most of my lifetime. It's a tragedy. I get it.
So is it
But
the registry of motor vehicles.
And then you can respond.
But in
Jay.
Massachusetts, we can control our roads and how safe they are. So why wouldn't we want everyone to follow the same set of rules, to pass the same test? It just doesn't make any sense. And for folks out there, you know, I think looking towards the people on the ground level, looking towards law enforcement, they're asking us to do this. They support this. They know that when they pull someone over, they want to know who is behind that wheel. Just as I want to know as I'm driving down the street that everyone here is driving on the roads after having passed a test and gotten insurance.
When Charlie Baker vetoed this bill, he vetoed it for a reason. And one of the things he said was by granting licenses to undocumented aliens, it wouldn't be long till the whole pool is diluted and we don't really know whether the license is truly the person holding it, that's the
But let me ask you
name.
again, Jay, one of the first questions I asked you, unlike the people who were here last night about this change in dental insurance, where we'd be the first law in the country, we'd be the 18th jurisdiction with this. Where has that problem arisen? I mean, if it turns out, I'm assuming, if those problems had arisen, then people would be repelled by this law, but the numbers suggest otherwise. Where are the problems?
Jim, it depends on what numbers you're talking about. I told you that the 16 states that have this already have had an increase in the number of fatalities.
Because of this? Because of this?
Well, within 2 years of each state within 2 years has had an increase in fatalities. Now,
I only have a minute. Give me your best 30 seconds, and then you're going to do it. Best 30 seconds why people should vote to repeal this law, Jay.
Okay, the reason why they should vote to repeal it is because it's a dangerous law. Where it's been tried in 16 other jurisdictions, the fatalities have gone up 20 to 30%. It's a law that circumvents the federal authorities who have the primary jurisdiction in vetting these people before they come into the country.
30 seconds for you, Senator.
I completely disagree, and I would like to see your facts laid out because those statistics don't add up. They've never been presented before. So just to sum it up, again, it's safer roads by requiring everybody to follow the same rules on the roads. So you're passing a driver's test, you're showing proof of identification, documentation, you're getting insurance, you're paying into the system, and you're again earning a driver's license. It makes for safer roads for everyone. That's why I'm voting yes on 4 for safer roads.
Senator, it's good to see you. Thank you much for being here.
Jay,
Same to you. Really
Jim,
appreciate your time.
good to be here with you.
Thank you so much. The Senator, Jay McMahon.
Thank you.